In this video, I'll show how to estimate the firm's enterprise value by discounting its free cash flows. Now remember, free cash flow is the cash generated by the firm before any payment to debt or equity is considered. Now here's the equation for free cash flow. Free cash flow equals the earnings before interest and taxes, 1 minus the tax rate, plus non-cash expenses such as depreciation and amortization, minus any capital expenditures, plus any change in net operating working capital. Now the most difficult area is with the change in net operating working capital. I suggest leaving out short-term notes and other current assets. Now remember, an increase in net operating working capital will cause a decrease in free cash flow. Now this equation might help. Now here's an example. Try and work it out, and here's the answer. Now, in the dividend model last week, the firm's cash and debt are included indirectly because interest and expenses on earnings. Now, however, since we are using earnings before interest and taxes, we have to adjust for these factors using this equation here. Now see, we add the cash and subtract debt to the firm's value and divide by shares outstanding to get the individual share price. The main difference is that we use weighted average cost of capital instead of the return on stock, or RS, as calculated by the capital asset pricing model. Now let's try one, and remember the mechanics are the same. However, due to proprietary influence, investment companies might calculate weighted average cost of capital and free cash flow differently. Now don't forget about my video on weighted average cost of capital. Now let us do this problem on Excel. Now remember, if we're using the Hewlett-Packard 10B2, cash flow 0 equals 0. However, Excel does not have a cash flow 0 and starts with the first cash flow. Now I have already calculated each free cash flow. Now this problem is again similar to the non-constant dividend model calculated last week. All we do is to continue to calculate the free cash flow until it becomes constant, which is 5%, and then find the terminal value of the company. Now since we cannot have two cash flows at a period 6, I just add them together, which if you add the 2.54 and the 53.4 million, you get the 55.94 million here. Now I place all the values in Excel and find V0. So let's go ahead and do that now using the net present value button. And the weighted average cost of capital is 10%, so that is the rate. Value number 1 is the 1.67 free cash flow, millions of course. 1.85 million would be the next one. The next one is 2.03. Finally, the next one is 2.21. The fifth value here would be 2.38, and finally the sixth value is the combination of the free cash flow at period 6 plus the terminal value that was determined using the 2.54 times 1.05 growth rate divided by the weighted average cost of capital of 10% minus the growth rate of 5%, and we get the 53.4. Added them together and it was 55.94. And now we get the value of the company is 39.14 million. We add the cash, which was 4 million. We subtract the debt, which is 1 million, and divide by the 2 million shares outstanding and get a price of the stock at $21.07.